At this very instant, your soul is already assigned to a particular spiritual dimension according to your existing level of awareness. The renowned American psychic, Edgar Cayce, meticulously documented this phenomenon through more than 14,000 psychic readings that are preserved verbatim in Virginia Beach. In 1923, during one of his profound trance states, Cayce left his stenographer in disbelief by describing 7 distinct spiritual realms where souls exist between their earthly lives. He not only identified these levels, but also elaborated on what influences which planes of consciousness you can access, and crucially, how to ascend to higher dimensions while still living. Before we explore these transformative insights, I have a request for you. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to activate the notification bell, as this information has been kept under wraps by mainstream spiritual teachings for almost a century. Moreover, YouTube's algorithm doesn't always deliver profound content to those who truly need it. Prepare yourself for an eye-opening truth that could transform your entire perspective on your spiritual journey. In one of his most unsettling readings from the 1920s, Cayce disclosed that the majority of individuals are completely oblivious to the fact that they are functioning at the lowest spiritual frequency available. He described this state as the realm of material consciousness, a spiritual dimension so saturated with ego and physical attachments that souls can remain ensnared in it for countless lifetimes. However, there's something even more troubling that Cayce uncovered regarding spiritual evolution. In 1932, during a reading for a businessman, an extraordinary event took place. Midway through the session, Cayce's voice unexpectedly transformed, and he started speaking in a tone that onlookers described as otherworldly. He disclosed that this individual's soul had been stuck on the same spiritual plane for more than 800 years, repeatedly making the same mistake in consciousness with each new life. Gladys Davis, the stenographer, noted later that she had never witnessed Cayce display such agitation during a session. After he came to, he had no recollection of his words, but the message remained unmistakably clear. This soul was confined, and Cayce had just observed something that genuinely frightened him. This alters our entire understanding of spiritual development. Many individuals assume that merely experiencing numerous lifetimes guarantees spiritual growth. However, Cayce's readings demonstrate that this notion is entirely incorrect. In reality, he recorded numerous instances of souls that had been reincarnating for thousands of years, yet never progressed beyond the initial spiritual realm. Allow me to illustrate what Cayce observed as he gazed into the Akashic records, that universal archive where the paths of every soul are etched. Picture 7 magnificent tiers of consciousness, each signifying a unique frequency of spiritual perception. At the lowest tier lies what Cayce referred to as earthbound consciousness, souls ensnared by their material cravings, fear, and ego, fashioning their own spiritual confinement. What's genuinely surprising about this most fundamental realm is, in one of his most extensively recorded cases, Cayce spoke about souls that had remained trapped since the days of ancient Atlantis, over 12,000 years back. These individuals were not malevolent. Instead, they were typical people who failed to rise above their fundamental human instincts. They continually opted for comfort instead of personal growth, fear instead of love, and self-interest rather than service. However, here's where it becomes truly astonishing. Cayce disclosed that these confined souls are often unaware of their entrapment. They think they are advancing spiritually as they engage in the activities of earthly existence, working, loving, struggling, dying, and being reborn. However, their consciousness does not truly progress. They resemble spiritual zombies, mindlessly reiterating the same cycles over countless lifetimes. But before you begin to worry about your own spiritual state, allow me to offer you something that can instill hope. In 1944, only a year prior to his passing, Cayce delivered what is regarded as his most significant discourse on the evolution of consciousness. When a woman from New York inquired directly about how to discern which spiritual realm she was operating from, Cayce provided a remarkably insightful answer that has been examined by metaphysical scholars for the past 80 years. He explained that every individual is continuously receiving indications regarding their spiritual frequency, yet the majority are too preoccupied with material worries to pay attention to these signs. These indications appear in dreams, unexpected realizations, unexplainable coincidences, and what he referred to as soul promptings. Those instances when you possess an awareness of truth, even if you can't articulate the reasons behind it. However, there's a particular assessment that Cayce provided to uncover your current spiritual state. In one of his most actionable readings, he described what he termed the consciousness mirror technique. This isn't merely an abstract form of meditation. This effective technique requires no more than 5 minutes and will clearly indicate which spiritual dimension your soul is engaging with at the moment. Here's the process, and I encourage you to attempt this immediately after viewing the video. According to Cayce, when you meet someone who evokes intense negative feelings, such as anger, jealousy, judgment, or fear, you are essentially seeing a reflection of your unresolved consciousness. The strength of your response uncovers your spiritual vibration. Should you respond with instant anger or judgment, it signifies that you are functioning within the first realm, which is material consciousness. When you experience a blend of compassion and understanding, you are tapping into elevated frequencies. However, if you perceive that individual as a soul undergoing a human experience similar to yours, and you genuinely love their journey, you are functioning from what Cayce referred to as Christ consciousness, the highest spiritual state attainable in a physical existence. This method proved so precise that Cayce employed it to identify which souls were prepared for advanced spiritual teachings and which ones should concentrate on foundational consciousness work first. The outcomes were consistently accurate. Now allow me to share something that will completely astonish you regarding spiritual evolution. In 1936, Cayce was approached to conduct a reading for a woman who insisted she had a past life in Atlantis. Many anticipated that he would regard this as mere imagination. However, Cayce not only validated her assertion, but also disclosed information that transformed our understanding of consciousness evolution. He stated that the souls residing in Atlantis possessed spiritual advancements and states of awareness that contemporary humans struggle to grasp. Yet, the most surprising aspect follows. A significant number of these enlightened beings opted to incarnate during our present era with the intention of assisting humanity in achieving a considerable evolutionary advancement. According to Cayce, from 1900 to 2000, numerous souls from Atlantis were destined to be born with preserved memories of elevated consciousness states. Their purpose? To establish higher spiritual frequencies on Earth and guide others in reaching these superior dimensions. Consequently, some individuals existing among us today are functioning from consciousness levels that far surpass the average human by thousands of years. Their presence is not coincidental. They have come to fulfill a spiritual purpose, aiding our planet in its evolution to a higher state. What's even more astonishing is that Cayce mentioned that any soul, no matter its present level of spirituality, can significantly speed up its consciousness expansion by grasping and implementing what he referred to as the universal principles of spiritual growth. In one of his most detailed discussions on consciousness, he specified 5 particular practices that can elevate a soul from the lowest spiritual plane to the highest within a single lifetime. These are not elaborate ceremonies or religious practices. Rather, they represent practical uses of consciousness that anyone can start applying right away. The primary principle is what Cayce referred to as putting service before self. However, this concept goes beyond mere volunteering or assisting others. It encompasses a much deeper significance. Each choice you make, whether it's the breakfast you select or your reaction to criticism, either caters to your ego or promotes the growth of your soul. Souls confined in lower realms tend to opt for ego satisfaction. Conversely, evolved souls regularly select actions that enhance awareness. However, this is where Cayce's teachings become particularly relevant for contemporary Americans. In one of his most profound discussions regarding material abundance, he tackled the primary challenge confronting spiritual seekers in the 20th and 21st centuries. The misconception that achieving material wealth signifies spiritual growth is prevalent. Cayce pointed out that numerous individuals actually experience spiritual decline upon attaining financial success, as they confuse monetary abundance with spiritual progress. In his readings, he observed many souls who were more spiritually advanced in past lives while living in poverty compared to their current affluent existences. This does not imply that money is inherently bad. Rather, it indicates that your relationship with material wealth influences your spiritual vibration. When your wealth aligns with your spiritual purpose and supports the growth of others, it enhances your awareness. However, if it caters to your ego and creates a divide between you and others, it ensnares you in lesser spiritual dimensions. The second universal principle that Cayce uncovered is the idea of thought as a creative power. In one of his most insightful lessons on consciousness, he pointed out that the majority of people are unaware that they are perpetually shaping their spiritual reality through their thought processes. Each thought you entertain either elevates or diminishes your spiritual frequency. Here's the surprising aspect that many spiritual guides overlook. Cayce uncovered that simply thinking positively is insufficient for raising your consciousness. He actually realized that some individuals were employing positive thinking as a way to bypass their shadow selves, which led to their stagnation in spiritual limbo. Genuine growth in consciousness necessitates what Cayce referred to as purification through truth. This involves confronting your inner darkness openly, fully embracing your human imperfections, and extending love to yourself regardless. It is only when you reach this point that you can enter the elevated spiritual dimensions where true transformation occurs. The third principle involves healing as a form of spiritual service. However, Cayce's definition of healing went beyond just the physical. In one of his groundbreaking revelations regarding consciousness, he stated that any part of you that is healed contributes to the healing of that same part in others, including those you have never encountered. This phenomenon occurs due to the profound interconnectedness of all consciousness. By addressing and healing your fears, you contribute to diminishing fear within the shared collective consciousness of humanity. Similarly, when you work on healing your anger, you facilitate a process for others to let go of their own anger. Addressing your shame aids in liberating humanity from the shame that confines our entire species to lower spiritual frequencies. Therefore, your personal spiritual journey transcends individual growth. You are actively participating in the evolution of human consciousness as a whole. Each moment you opt for love instead of fear, forgiveness rather than resentment, or truth instead of illusion. You are guiding our world toward elevated spiritual dimensions. However, there's a perspective that could fundamentally alter your understanding of your spiritual path. In 1942, Cayce delivered a reading that identified the most crucial element influencing a soul's access to different spiritual realms. It was not based on their good actions, meditation habits, or even their spiritual insights. Rather, it hinged on their ability to truly forgive. Cayce articulated that true forgiveness serves as the pivotal key to accessing every elevated spiritual dimension. However, he differentiated this from the more common type of forgiveness, where individuals claim to forgive while still harboring faint resentment or a sense of moral superiority. Instead, he referred to what he termed Christ-like forgiveness, characterized by a total letting go of any desire for others to change. This profound level of forgiveness is incredibly uncommon. Cayce found it in fewer than 1% of the souls he has read for. Many individuals mistakenly believe they have forgiven when, in fact, they have only repressed their anger or chosen to adopt a more magnanimous stance. Genuine forgiveness necessitates looking beyond the illusion of separation and understanding that everyone is doing their utmost based on their present level of awareness. Here's a documented incident that illustrates this concept clearly. In 1938, Cayce conducted a reading for a woman whose spouse had left her and their 3 children for his secretary. Filled with anger, she sought to know if he would face consequences in his next life. Cayce's reply astonished everyone present. He clarified that her husband's behavior was contributing to her spiritual growth by compelling her to decide between feeling like a victim and attaining spiritual mastery. If she could genuinely forgive him, not because he warranted it, but because such forgiveness would liberate her soul, she would experience a significant advancement in her spiritual journey. The woman dedicated 2 years to working under Cayce's mentorship. Upon finally reaching authentic forgiveness, she not only felt emotionally uplifted, but follow-up assessments revealed that her consciousness had progressed from the 2nd spiritual level to the 5th, a transformation that typically requires several lifetimes to accomplish. However, the most astonishing aspect of this narrative is yet to come. 3 months after she found true forgiveness, her ex-husband contacted her unexpectedly. He reported having what he termed a spiritual awakening and wanted to reconcile. Unbeknownst to him, she had been focusing on forgiveness, but her shift in consciousness had apparently catalyzed his spiritual growth. This illustrates what Cayce meant when he stated that by healing oneself, one can also heal others. Consciousness exists beyond the confines of time and space. When you truly experience spiritual growth, all those connected to you, even individuals from previous lifetimes, sense the change and are provided with a chance to grow alongside you. Next, I'd like to discuss the 4th universal law that Cayce uncovered: death as a conscious transition. Many individuals perceive death as an event that occurs to them. However, Cayce's insights demonstrate that death is an experience you engage in, contingent upon your state of consciousness. In one of his most insightful analyses regarding life after death, he explained that souls with elevated consciousness have the ability to select their death experience. They can stay conscious throughout the transition, retain their memories and personality, and even steer their reincarnation journey. Conversely, those souls existing in lower spiritual dimensions perceive death as a source of trauma and bewilderment. They frequently remain unaware of their own death and may linger for years in what Cayce referred to as earthbound states, trapped between the physical and spiritual realms due to their heavy consciousness preventing access to higher planes. This underscores that spiritual growth extends beyond merely enhancing one's present existence. This text discusses the preparation for mindful death and purposeful rebirth. Each moment dedicated to enhancing your higher consciousness serves as an investment in the journey of your eternal soul. The fifth and final universal law revealed by Cayce pertains to the illusion of time. In one of his most thought-provoking discussions on consciousness, he described how souls functioning from elevated spiritual dimensions are able to tap into what he referred to as eternal now consciousness, a condition in which the past, present, and future coexist at once. Although this concept may seem abstract, it carries practical consequences that can transform your way of living. As you cultivate this level of awareness, you cease to be influenced by regrets from the past or worries about the future. You become fully immersed in the present, enabling you to tap into the boundless creative energy that resides solely in the current moment. Cayce exemplified this awareness during his readings. He was able to retrieve information from any era, envision possible futures, and even connect with souls that had never experienced physical existence. This wasn't an innate talent he possessed. He attained a heightened awareness by utilizing the same spiritual principles that I am currently sharing with you. However, there's a crucial insight that will significantly enhance your perspective on spiritual growth. In 1943, Cayce provided a reading that disclosed the genuine purpose of human existence on our planet. We do not come to this world to flee from the physical experience or to surpass our humanity. Our mission is to manifest heaven on earth by grounding elevated consciousness in a tangible form. This suggests that the aim isn't to surpass humanity, but rather to enhance it. Each individual who attains higher awareness while in a physical body helps facilitate this journey for others. We are essentially crafting a new framework for human potential. Cayce envisioned that by 2012, a sufficient number of souls would reach a higher state of consciousness, allowing humanity collectively to function from elevated spiritual frequencies. He anticipated that children born after this period would come into the world with inherent psychic abilities, profound spiritual insight, and an intuitive grasp of their soul's purpose. Observing the present generation of youth, it becomes clear that Cayce's forecast is manifesting. These individuals show little interest in the materialistic goals that motivated earlier generations. Instead, they are instinctively inclined toward exploring consciousness, promoting environmental recovery, and seeking genuine spiritual connections. However, the most crucial insight derived from all of Cayce's insights on spiritual development is that your existing level of consciousness is not permanent. Each moment offers a chance to select thoughts, words, and actions that raise your spiritual vibration. The focus isn't on which spiritual plane you are presently in. Rather, it's about determining which realm you aspire to reach next and what you are prepared to do to achieve that. In one of his most actionable lessons on spiritual growth, Cayce shared a straightforward yet highly effective method to speed up spiritual progress. Each night before going to bed, request your soul to reveal one particular way you can embrace love more fully the following day. Next, focus on the opportunities that arise. Practicing this consistently can elevate you from the lowest spiritual level to the highest in just a few months, instead of requiring lifetimes. Why is this the case? It's because it harmonizes your conscious mind with your soul's growth drive. However, keep in mind that spiritual growth does not mean striving for perfection or escaping your humanity. It's a journey towards embracing your true self. You are a divine essence beneath the layers of conditioning and societal programming. Your soul selected this specific moment in history to incarnate because you possess a unique offering for humanity's progress. The spiritual plane you are meant to reach isn't dictated by your previous errors or present challenges. Instead, it hinges on your commitment to consistently choose love, truth, and service in every moment. The 14,000 readings by Edgar Cayce consistently reveal a significant truth. You are not merely a human undergoing a spiritual experience. Rather, you are a spiritual entity experiencing humanity. The nature of that experience, as well as the spiritual realm you enter after death, is shaped by the choices you make in the present. So here's a challenge for you. Consider the consciousness mirror test I mentioned previously. Pay attention to how you respond to individuals who provoke you. Use those responses as a navigation tool indicating where your consciousness requires further development. Engage in authentic forgiveness, not due to the merits of others, but because your spirit merits the liberation it offers. Assist others not to earn spiritual accolades, but because service is a natural manifestation of elevated consciousness. Above all, keep in mind that you are not undertaking this spiritual journey by yourself. Every soul that has ever existed is linked to you through the same universal consciousness that Edgar Cayce tapped into during his readings. Our growth is mutual. When you grow, we all grow. When you find healing, we all experience healing. By opting for love, you make it more accessible for others to choose love as well. The spiritual dimension you will enter goes beyond your personal fate. It encompasses the shared evolution of human consciousness as a whole. Each decision you make today plays a role in shaping that future. Before you leave, please subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell, as I will provide more profound insights from Edgar Cayce's readings that can truly alter your spiritual path forever. If this video touched your spirit, give it a like and share it with someone prepared to uncover their authentic spiritual potential. Your involvement plays a crucial role in making sure this sacred knowledge finds its way to those who need it the most. Always remember that you possess more power than you realize, are more cherished than you can conceive, and are valued more than you may think. Your spiritual growth is significant not only for yourself, but also for all of humanity. Continue to choose love, pursue truth, and commit to serving the greater good. The well-being of your soul and our shared future relies on these choices.